Good morning, Indonesia. Welcome to News 18, where the news come first. I'm Gabriel, and for today's first news is about Argentinian women rise up against gender violence. Hundreds of thousands of Argentinian women were expected to take part in a national work stoppage and protest on Wednesday, following the brutal killing of a 16-year-old girl earlier this month. Lucia Perez died in early October after allegedly being abducted, drugged, and raped in the city of Mar del Plata.
At exactly 1 o'clock on Wednesday, thousands of women across Argentina stopped work to take part in mass protests. There were also informal gatherings like this outside the National Congress as part of a day of demonstrations to highlight violence against women and their role in the country.
We want to show the power of women within the production system and not just as victims.
According to organisers, women earn at least 20% less than their male counterparts, compounding government spending cuts to social programmes that contribute to what they say is a sexist culture.
So basically what we claim is more funding and more freedom and equal conditions of labour.
The protests and marches followed the brutal rape and murder of 16-year-old Lucia Perez in the seaside city of Mar del Plata, where 3 men have been arrested in connection with the death. But the protests were also over the increasing number of murders of women. At previous protests held by the movement Not One Less, Ni Una Menos in Spanish, the organisers have said that the number of women being killed is 1 every 30 hours. But in recent months, the level of violence has been increasing. In October alone, according to media reports, 1 woman has been murdered every 20 hours. Organisers called on protesters to wear black in support of the families of victims, like the sisters and parents of Sabrina Gonzalez, stabbed to death 2 years ago by her former boyfriend. Her father, Enrique, says these cases are not taken seriously by the courts and the police, who don't work hard enough to find the murderers. Though there is widespread support for this movement, organisers say the government must do more.
Of course, the Ni Una Menos movement against femicide has a broad support. Who would say that supports femicide? It's very easy to actually say that you support this movement. And the government has not pronounced a single word about this protest today, but in our other 2 big demonstrations, they say they support it, etc., because it's very easy to support it by word, but then without the proper funding, this means that they don't support our struggle.
Social organisations want funding and public policies to combat femicide. The families of victims are calling for justice. Argentina demands not 1 woman less. Joel Richards, CCTV, Buenos Aires.
Joining us to discuss this topic, Mr. Nicholas Aurelian, sociologist from University of Indonesia. Good morning, Mr. Nicholas Aurelian. Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much.
So, basically, Lucia Perez died earlier this month in the city of Mar del Plata. 2 men who left her at the hospital said that she overdosed on drugs, but doctors found the evidence that she had been subjected to extreme sexual violence. What do you think about this case?
From my opinion, I think that she suffers from inhuman sexual aggression, and this is very serious and must be resolved very quickly as possible. And if we see from the definition of social value norm, which is cultural standard that indicate the general good deemed desirable for organized social life and an assumption about what is right and wrong and important in the society, I think this case is serious and already crossed the line, especially with the fact that a young girl suffered a cardiac arrest after being raped and being drugged with cocaine.
If we see from the graphic data, since 2008, according to NGOS, 1,808 women have been violently killed in the country. Even from this case, we can see that Argentina has a lot of cases where a woman was being killed and become a subject of violence. What do you think about this situation?
Like what I said before, this is a serious case, and I can say this case is more about a deviation for me.
Oh, okay. What do you think this case is more serious than a deviation?
We see from the definition of social deviation, where social deviation is a phenomenon that has existed in all societies, where there have been norms. There are two possibilities for how an individual will act in the face of social norms: convert or violent. In this case, we can see from all of the data that you read before, all the case has crossed all existing norms.
Do you think this situation can lead into conflict, especially between men and women?
Of course, even if we see nowadays situation, we can already see the conflict between men and women. Even in this case, the beginning part of the conflict was between men and women.
So, do you think this situation is a part of conflict or violence?
If we see this situation from the woman being killed, I think it's a part of violence, because when we're talking about conflict, usually both parties have more or less same powers, so both parties will attack.
Then, do you think this case is related with social integration?
Actually, I don't think so, because if we see from the definition of social integration is more like a movement of minority groups, just such as ethnic minorities, refugees, and unprivileged section of society to the mainstream of society. And I don't think that woman is a part of the minority, because basically women and men are all equal. But if we see this case a little bit deeper, I can say that we need to apply the integration theory to this case. So we need to unite all the majority and minority.
You say that woman is not a part of a minority. Then, do you think in this case women and men are a part of social stratification or social differentiation?
Women and men should be in social differentiation because they have equal right. But we can deny that sometimes men and women are located in social stratification. And usually men is in the higher strata, maybe because of power. But in this case, we can see clearly that this is a social stratification. Man is in the higher part and woman is in the weaker side.
What is so serious about this case? Find the answer after this commercial break. Back again with us to continue our discussion. So, I think we all know that this case is a serious problem that always happen almost every year. But actually, how serious is this case?
According to the United Nations Entity of Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women, violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread violations around the world. At least 1 out of every 3 women around the world has been abused in her lifetime, coerced into sex, and others. And the abuser is usually known to her.
So, this is a very serious case. And after thousands of women took to the streets in cities across Argentina on Wednesday to protest violence against women after the rape and killing of a teenager, do you think this situation is an evidence that women begin to come forward to demand or ask about their right?
Yes, and I think it's a right action of Argentina women, because they need to take an action that show that they're capable and they're brave enough to fight against this problem. Especially, it also means that if it means that they realize that if they are not going to take an action and make this problem keep going on, there will be more and more victims, and they will keep living in a constant fear.
So, after all, what is the impact of this case to Argentina?
Argentina is finally learning the attacks on women are not just something that they can abandon. We are realizing that the violence of women are suffering as the result of an underlying ideology that is common to our society nowadays.
So, what is the best solution to resolve this issue?
The only way to eradicate a social behavior is by talking about it and filling all our scarce schools and business with discussion on how we can evolve to be better and feminist society. An organizer believed that the protests will make things more visible. They may be right, but macho culture won't change overnight. It's education that's needed to empower girls. And in many cases, therapy for women in abusive relationships works. Once the violence starts, it's hard to stop it. Even if there were no giant gender bias, police response will come too late. That's why we need to keep working hard to solve this problem.
So thank you, Mr. Nicolas Aurelian, for being our speakers for today's discussion. Thank you for all the viewers that already watched our discussion with Mr. Nicolas Aurelian for today. Don't forget to watch News 18 every morning at 7 a.m. until 8 a.m. So once again, I'm Gabriel. Keep watching News 18.